today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own op art. Now op art is any kind of art that fools your eyes. Op stands for optical, and op art is really just an optical illusion. It's something that's meant to trick your eye. So today I'm going to show you one way to make op art, although there are many, many, many different ways you can make op art. I will just show you one, and maybe next time I can show you another. So what you need is a pencil to start with, a paper, and something to color with, like a crayon marker or colored pencil. So let's get started. I have a couple books here of op art that I wanted to show you before we get started, just to give you an idea of the many different ways that you can make op art. So if you really like op art, you can look up probably many different examples on the internet. So this one is meant to kind of fool your eye. If you move your head a little side to side, it almost looks like this is moving, even though it is not. Kind of plays tricks. And this one's a neat one. The elephant here. If you look at just the top half of the elephant, you see 1, 2, 3, 4 legs, but then we switch down at the bottom and it changes. The empty space becomes the foot. And so this couldn't happen in real life. And so your brain says, oh, wait a minute, that's not right. This is a neat one too, these blue squares. If you look at it just right, it'll feel like there's little dots in between the squares when you move your eye around, even though they're really not. They call this like ghost dots because they're not there, but your brain starts to imagine that they're there. It's a little trick. One of my favorites too. Because if you look at this, it looks like a gentleman. He's wearing kind of a silly looking hat with a flower. He looks like he's winking at you and smiling. But when you turn it around, the face changes. Oh my goodness, this is the hat now. This is a wrinkle in the forehead. Here's the nose. Oh, the eye. He does not look happy because his mouth is frowning. This is a very famous example. You may have seen it before. Which do you see first? Do you see a young lady turning away, or do you see the old woman? The old woman has a nose right here. Here's her chin and her mouth, and she's got kind of a scarf over her head, and her hair is right here. Her eyes are right here. Just see the eyelash on this side and the eye right here on this one. If you see the young woman, you may have seen her looking away, and this is her jaw and her chin. And her eyelash right here. She's got a necklace on and like a big furry coat. She's got a feather in her hair too. Alright, so boys and girls, I'm going to show you how to do a converging line op art. And what you need to do is put a dot in the middle, works best. And no, we don't need a measure to find the middle. Just get close and you're fine. What we're going to do is we are going to draw at least 8 lines coming out from the middle. If you want to use a ruler, you can. Sometimes using a ruler is nice because you can draw, as long as it's touching your point here in the middle, you can draw all the way through. Or, like I said, if you want to just do a line like this and try to get them evenly spaced out. Now, if you do 10 or 12, that will also work. But make sure you have an even number, not an odd number. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I should be fine. Now what I'm going to do first today, I am going to do an A-B pattern in a lot of different ways. A-B means you are going to switch back and forth just between 2 things. And the first thing I'm going to switch back and forth between are straight lines and curved lines. So first I'm going to just go between 2 of my lines, and I'm going to create a set of straight lines, all evenly kind of spaced out. And then I'm going to skip. I'm going to leave this empty for right now. I'm just going to do, I did 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to try to do the same, kind of space them out evenly, the same way, and I probably will still end up with 4. I'm going to do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like I'm kind of tilting a little bit. That's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in the empty spaces, we're not leaving this empty. What we are going to do is we are going to create a curve line, and we're going to start right where the other one ended, and we're going to curve this way. Now, I'm going to create a convex line, which means it's a line that is curving this way. And I notice that I'm trying to end in the same spot where the other line starts. So you have to always keep in mind, sometimes when it gets farther apart, it's good to practice it. And I'm going to do this again. In between each of my lines. And if it gets down to the corner, it feels like you might need another curved line. You can add that if it feels like it needs it. Convex. Almost looks like a spider web. Not quite, though. I think it needs just one more partial line here. We didn't have to draw a straight line because the paper was shorter there. All right, but I felt like it just needed that extra line. Now the next step is to choose a color to color in an AB pattern. So I'm going to start in the straight ones again, and I'm going to color this box in. I start by outlining. You could use a marker or a crayon, although this small of paper with crayon could be tricky to stay in the lines. With op art, it is important that you are very neat. If you get sloppy, it ruins the illusion and it ruins the trick for your eye. So I'm going to leave white, blue, white, blue. So I'm going to outline this area and I'm going to color this in. I like to push very firmly if I'm using colored pencils because the darker your color is, the better the contrast is, and the easier it is to trick people's eyes if your colors are colored in dark. So that's why I say markers work great. So if you're using markers at home or ink of some sort, that works great. Sometimes paint gets a little messy. All right, I'm going to skip this area for right now, and I'm just going to do the same. So I left the first box white. I'm going to color in the second box. I always like to work from the center and work out. It's easier for my brain to keep track of one row at a time instead of trying to go around. Of course, the one thing about colored pencils is that you probably are going to have to sharpen them when you're doing this. Black is a great color to use. Dark colors work the best, so that's why I'm using blue here. But purple would be great. Brown. Any real dark color. Red would be fine. I stay away from pinks and yellows because they're such a light value that you don't get the contrast with the white enough. We're just going to leave the white spaces white. It will save you time and it will save your hand from getting so tired when you're coloring. You might have noticed also that I use a small paper because if you use a large paper, it can take a very long time, and it's very easy to make a mistake when you're coloring in an AB pattern if you have a large piece of paper. It is important that you use the same color for the whole piece of op art. So if you like doing things in rainbow order, this is probably not the project you want to do that on. There are other kinds of op art you can do that, but not on this one. Now that I have all the areas with the straight lines finished, I'm going to use the same colored pencil to color the curved areas. But this time, instead of coloring the same right next and starting with I'm going to start in the middle right here, and I am going to color this in. Now that first one, it may be hard to tell, but I did the sides darker and left the middle a little bit lighter value. So I'm going to do that again. If you're using marker, you won't be able to have the value change, but it will still work. So I'm going to do the sides darker, both sides darker, and then I'm going to let it get softer in the middle. Now if it got too dark, you could go back and you could make it look, use your eraser to lighten the color. So I'm going to do the same thing down here. Darker. It's kind of hard on the edge of my paper. I'll just do the best I can. Maybe I'll start by outlining first, and then I'll make it easier to color. Now, if you miss spots along the edges, kind of go back and fill it in. And you can start to see this middle where it has the curved lines now looks like the paper is bending, almost like a cone right there. So start in the middle, dark along the edges, lighter in the middle. It's pretty easy on that little one. Dark along the edges. I'm going to do this. Outline it first, and then darkest value on the side, lightest value in the middle, and then finish off the edges. All right, we got to get down to the tricky part. You're going to do this for the whole thing. Darkest along the edges, lighter to the middle. And when you get the whole thing, when I get this whole thing done, I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so we've done one, I've shown you one way to do op art with straight lines and curve convex lines, and then using the AB pattern to color with. Also, it's kind of a nice to be able to use either colored pencil or crayon to get the value changes, but you can also use just marker. Of course, you won't be able to get the value changes if you do that, but it will still work. I would love to see your pictures when you're all done. So load it to Artsonia if you can. If you can't, try loading it to Seesaw. I'll see you next time. Stay creative. Bye.